Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Well, welcome to another weekly recap. We're now into the month of September, folks. I don't know about your summer, but mine has gone just whizzed by. Incredible. Here in Montreal, we're getting cooler days. Golf is getting interrupted by, some rain. Now, slowly the leaves will start to turn. Beautiful autumn to play golf is ideal in my view because it's not too warm. As long as you put on the layers and remove the layers as the sun comes up and as it gets warmer, it's perfect. It's perfect for golf. So that's enough for golf. What about fountain pen therapy? Well, one thing I noticed is that the fountain pen therapy studios is just growing and growing and growing. I don't know where to put the pens anymore and where to put the ink and all the paper. I mean, there's lots of stuff for me to go over here. Got all kinds of ideas. The question is, can I resist not spoiling everything and putting it all in one recap that will last 4 hours? I mean, I can keep going forever. The challenge for me is to try to maintain it to an hour and 15 minutes. But having said that, I think I've got some stuff to show you that will be very, very interesting. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy presents the weekly recap for September the 7th, 2025. As we always do, we will start our weekly recap with what's new in the market. What have I found? What I believe is interesting for you folks to know? And again, the point here is not to, you get a lot of comments where the viewers are almost apologetic that they're not going to buy the pen that I review or that I mention. That's not the point, folks. It really isn't. You should feel comfortable to buy, not to buy anything that I talk about. I'm just throw it out there and let you know what's out there. And if you're in the mood, if you can afford it, or if you're in shopping, or if you're interested, at least it gets you to know what's in the market, what's there, what's not there, and we'll take it from there. And this channel prides itself in being one of the precursors of some of the stuff. That I'm the first one to present it to you. I was looking at just a parallel here before we look at the market. Figboot on pens. The man is fantastic. But he reviews expensive pens. So he's reviewing this Asvine as if, and he mentions that it's a new pen. He really is talking about this one. I reviewed this pen months ago, but for some reason he thinks it's brand new, or he's been told it's brand new. And he talks about one model, two models, but he doesn't know that, in fact, now we've got an ebonite version. So, I think we're all precursors when it comes to Chinese pens. I think we're front runners in that regard, and I pride in that. But this channel not only does Chinese pens, we do Indian pens, we do Italian pens, And, we do all kinds of pens from any country that is worthy of mention, and if the pen is worthy of mention. So let's take a look at the market. First thing to mention is that I talked about Asvine not having their 1.1 stub readily available on other pens other than the P20. Well, that's been corrected. In fact, I would say to you that the following day from my last recap when I mentioned that, AliExpress had them already. So you can find this is the P30 with the 1-point stub. You can purchase the Asvine V126, the vacuum filler with the 1.1 stub now. And of course, the first one that was presented, which is the P20, the piston filler with the 1.1 stub. So as you can see here, I think and there may be more. These are the three that I've been able to find with the 1.1 stub, number 6 nib, and we're going to revisit that in a short while. What else have I got for you? Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but Pelican M800 adapter, AdMock M800 as an adapter where you can put in their pens the actual original Pelican nibs that are available, by the way. You can pick those up at various stores. I know Giardino Italiano has them all the time and sometimes has them on sale. In fact, I managed to put a Pelican M800 broad nib that I bought from Giardino Italiano in one of my AdMock M800s without the adapter. But now there's an adapter, so I think I'm going to order that adapter so that I can, present it to you in one of my recaps so that anybody who's interested, well, you can get the adapter for $27 and then you can turn your AdMock M800 into a Pelican M800 if that suits your fancy. What else have I got for you? Some inks. I noticed that Natami has come out with some inks here. Very interesting bottle. Also like this design on how they seated on this metal bed, if you will. It's got various colors, greens, the oranges, the yellow, the teals, the light blue, the dark blue. So I think I'm going to order a couple of these inks and then present them at the channel as soon as I can. What else have I got for you? Oh, 365 Days Stationery, one of my favorite AliExpress stores that I think you can trust. It's got some interesting nibs. Take a look at this, $22.99. You get this, it's a hooded nib replacement, but with a long blade, with that architect sort of a grind. They also have regular nibs with that special grind. They go in and out in terms of availability, but that's something that you should take a look at. The other one is this one here, the double layers. They have a pen which probably looks like a Jinao, either an X350 or an X450, but it's got that special nib, which is kind of again, a modified nib. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, double layered nib, they call it, with that special tipping. So anybody who's interested in those kind of tippings, check it out. 365 Day Stationaries. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This is at Casa Stilografica. It's one of the pens that's in my sights. This is the Jane Austen fountain pen, the original Mont Blanc. It's going for 983 euros, which is roughly, $1,400 Canadian. It's a Grail pen, in my estimation. Right now, I'm having fun with the fake or the clone, if you will. But it's only because one day that pen will be mine. One day it will be mine. In terms of inks, I also noticed that there are new inks from Ferris Wheel. This is Goulet Pens, has them in their coming soon section. And I don't know if this is a trend to come, and it's a welcome trend. But it looks like Ferris Wheel now does offer some of these bottles. It's 28 milliliters, are a little expensive at $35, but they've got some new inks. But I like the bottles, and I'm assuming that those bottles are, can stand, and the opening is sufficient so that we don't have to spill the bottles every time we fill our pens. But I thought I'd mention some new inks from Ferris Wheel. There are also some new inks. Where is it from? Waringal. Problem with Waringal these days is there are too many complex inks that are coming out from their shops, with a lot of sparkle and shimmer. And these days I'm staying away from them because they clog your pens, and they're nice and they're pretty, but you can't really get long-lasting use with these inks unless you have, very special pens. So, there you have it in terms of what's new. There's not much else. There's Albonici everywhere, okay? And we'll take a look at that and YouTube reviews. I mean, you've got YouTube reviews on Albonici and comparisons and replacements, and I'm going to let that wave go by. I've ordered an Albonici Authentic. I've got some alternatives that I want to propose, and we're going to wait for the big rush to go by, and then I'm going to put up a video perhaps, or maybe we will treat it in this recap. Well, it all depends on how many and how much I have to say. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That's what's new in the market. Stay tuned for my next segment. Be right back. Okay, we're back with the next segment, which is what's new in the fountain pen therapy studios. What have I received? And this is, you'll have to understand, I think I mentioned it before, that this weekly recap doesn't just get taped or recorded on the Sunday that it comes out. As you can imagine, there's a lot of work involved. And if I would do that, it means I would have to wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning in the hope of getting my video out at 9 a.m. But no, what I do is I usually start Friday afternoon. I see what's out there. I see what's in. And, the recap sometimes evolves to the point where, you do some taping and then you got to come back and add things because somebody's at the door delivering. So this may evolve, but let's start with what I've received at this point in time. And it might just get, evolve as this recap goes along. So a couple of things. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a short unboxing as for the two products that I got, or two boxes that I received so far. And let me just, okay, here we go. We'll go to my overhead camera. There you go. Another Asvine box. These are familiar. I wonder if they will ever change their packaging for something else. But I guess if it works, why change, right? Well, what have I got for you here? Well, nothing extremely novel. But it's a V126. I ordered a V126 with the 1.1 stub. And I figured I'd get this demonstrator. I have several others, but I don't have this demonstrator. So here it is. And maybe we'll do a little bit of a comparison just later on when we do some currently inked or what we're going to ink for the following week. We'll take a look at that pen a little more closely, but there you have it. I like these demonstrators, and I guess I'm going to compare it to maybe Majon. I can tell you right away that it doesn't have the heft nor the weight of the Majon. I don't know why my camera is not cooperating, but here it is. Yeah, I'm back. I just interrupted because I was curious why my camera wasn't focusing, and there you have it. That's the 1.1 stub. This time we're going to try to really pick a nice ink for this pen, but I can tell you right away that it's much, much lighter than the Majon. I think the Majon pens really mastered these demonstrator pens. Their acrylic is fabulous, but let's not rush. We'll do a comparison in a few minutes. What else have I got for you? Well, now, this is a novelty. I didn't present it in the What's New because I've got it live, but this is new as well, okay? And I think I'm one of the first to have it. I know Shanghai, no, it's not. It's not that pen. In fact, let me just jump back because I thought I'd received it, but I didn't. Let me jump back to, okay. I thought I received it. Sorry, folks. So here we go. Let me go back to my computer. I thought I got it, but it's not. It's something else, and I know why. This is the Dieman 810. 810 is out now. It's a wooden pen. And remember we talked about what I think is a craze right now, and Fude Fan mentioned that Japanese are going absolutely nuts over wooden writing instruments, and we'll take a look at some in a few minutes. And it looks like Dieman is jumping on the bandwagon, because here you have it, some wood pens. It's got they say it's a magnetic pen. I'm not sure what that means. I guess we'll see when we receive it. But I thought that box that I just showed you was the 810, but it's not. So let's go back to my overhead camera. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I apologize. What I did order was the A7. The reason why I ordered the A7, I already have an Dieman A7, which is this one. This is one of the earlier versions, and this section is unglued, and I'm fed up with this pen. I don't like it, and I thought I'd order the second version and just kind of compare. So this is what's in this box. I thought it was the A10. They would have surprised me because it would have been a really quick delivery, which, you know, when you order from AliExpress, you can't expect things in a few days. But this is the other version I got. I prefer this. It's kind of a matte finish, which I think, you know, gives you the sense of wood much better than this lacquered version. It's the same pen, I imagine, except that I noticed it has the brand new Dieman, the latest version of that Dieman nib, which is really nice from what I understand. This one, I replaced the nib with a limited edition long knife version. So we're going to ink this up and we're going to test it and see and compare it to this one. And just probably do that in the weapons for next week section, or the currently inked. We'll take a look at those two in just a few seconds. So that's in terms of fountain pens. Then I talked to you about craze for wooden pens. Well, I've received a couple, okay, and I thought I'd show them to you. Here they are. This is is it Pilot? I think it's a Pilot or a Mitsubishi. No, it's a Mitsubishi pencil with the pure malt. Very nice. It says pencil, but I'm not sure it is a pencil. It looks like a ballpoint to me, but maybe yeah, it's a ballpoint. Why does it say mechanical pencil? Or maybe that's the name of the company, Mitsubishi Pencil. But there you have it. I think they're great. I think these pens are really, really nice. I plan to do a video on all the wooden pens I have. So I've added these two to my collection. This is another one, just another version of the pure Madeira. Forget the numbers, but we'll deal with all of that in more specifics in a few seconds. But there you have two of them there. There's another one in here, and that's the roller ball and a ballpoint. I think that's what that is. And this is a pencil, again, wooden, and it's got that big, huge nib. So there you have it. So I've added 3 more wooden pens, and with this one, the A7 just came in. I'm adding to my collection, and there's a few more that are in the pipeline. waiting for them to all come in, and then we can do a video on that. Now, let me maybe do some writing with these pens. I'm curious to see how they write. Let me find a notebook here. Okay. I don't know if one of them is actually a roller ball or they're both ballpoints. But we'll see if these things write and how they write. So this is pure malt. Yeah, this is a ballpoint. Very nice, though, I must say. What I like about it is the tactile experience of a wooden pen. Your fingers stay there, which it doesn't run away from you, the pen, surprisingly enough. This one is a little more slippery. No, they're both ballpoints, just different sizes. But as is often the case, you can replace those refills with rollerball refills. Now, let me just see what kind of refills are in here. Oh, they're the small ones. I'm not sure I can. Yeah, these are the very thin ones. These may not be easily replaced with rollerballs, but I have to look into it. If they can, I prefer rollerball. But again, I really enjoy these wooden barrels. All of a sudden, this is the pencil. I forget the name. I think this is just a Chinese brand, is it, or is it a Pilot? Yeah, no, it's just a generic brand here. I really like these big, juicy leads. I have a tendency to snap 0.5 and even 0.7 just because the way I hold my writing instruments. But there you have it. Not all of you may enjoy these wooden pens, but I'm going crazy. I don't know how many I've ordered in the pipeline, and when I put them all together, we'll see what gives. Oh my God! I almost forgot. My favorite acquisition so far, when we talk about wooden pens, is this Pilot. I believe they call it the S20. I know there is a S30 out, which I find a little steep in terms of price. I'm hesitating whether or not to upgrade it, but maybe part of that wooden pen collection eventually, the S30 will join the S20. But here's the Pilot S20. Very nice. Again, wood barrel. What I also noticed is that the more I order these mechanical pencil, the more I realize that the lead is actually a lot stiffer and more resistant to cracking than it used to be. I'm kind of used to the old days when I would use these things in school, and I keep cracking the 0.5, and I was always looking for 0.7 and 0.9, etc. But what I noticed that these leads are much stronger and can resist even my pushing down on the lead. So I'm not going to hesitate from now on to purchase anything that's advertised as 0.5, even if it doesn't have a 0.7 option. So there you have it. But of course, going to be reviewing this in detail, perhaps when I just finish my collection, as they say. So there you have it, just an addition that I had forgotten. Okay, we're back. For paper, now that we're talking about Obonichi and various replacements, I thought I'd show you one notebook that I think is worthy of mention and that sometimes is overlooked. I know that what's also very popular these days is the Kinbor clone of the Obonichi, and we'll take a look at that maybe in the coming weeks. I've got a few that I've ordered. I've ordered the new ones. I've got some of the old ones. We'll compare the paper, etc., etc. I'm waiting also for my new Obonichi 2026 to come in so we can do some comparisons and maybe some ink swatching and ink writing and see what the difference is between the various notebooks. But there is one notebook that I think is worthy of mention, and that's by a company by the name of Wonderland 222. Let's go to their website. I've got a few products I want to show you, and you'll see what I mean. Won't be long. Here we go. First thing you'll notice, this is their website, is they've got 2025 dated planners at 50% off. That is a great deal. It's got the dates, but you don't need to deal. So you could use them as journals. You can use them as just scrap paper. And they've got Tomoe River paper in it. Some of it, they also got some, and well, actually, let me show you, which is probably the best way to do things. This is their notebook section, I believe. All notebooks. Here we go. Okay. On the side here, you'll see that you can buy a 2022 notebook. Okay. You can buy a 23, a 24, and if you go down, you can have A5, A6, or B6. If you show more, you can have dot grid. They sell imperfect notebooks at much cheaper prices. You get them at 192 pages or 386 pages. And what's interesting is that you can get it in Tomoe River paper Sanson or Tomoe River, the Tomoego Gawa, which is the original Tomoe River paper. They're not always available, so you have to check, but this is a great site and this is a great notebook. And I thought I'd show that and share that with you. So let's move on and I'll show you the ones I have in my collection. Okay, so we're back, and here are the notebooks. Now, you'll see that on the website you can buy dated planners, weekly planners, etc. But I prefer the ones that are not dated, frankly, and that's what I've got here. This is an old version that I had, and it's almost filled. I got to tell you, these things. First of all, they got this kind of a plastic, soft, plasticky sort of a cover, which works very well. Look, I mean, this lasted me a year, if not more, and the cover is not even bent. Okay, very good quality. And these are the pages. Well, at the beginning they have kind of an index page that goes on for several pages, but most of the notebook is composed of. Here's the page. You can put in your own date, okay, and then there's like numbers 1 to 24 if that is important to you. You can see a little bit of a darker line that kind of divides the page in 4 sections. If that's what you want to do, you can have your telephone calls, your things to do, and other stuff, or calls that you receive, depending on how you function and what the purpose of this notebook is. But I find them very good. And this is, by the way, all of these are original Tomoe River paper. None of this is Sanson because I purchased these some time ago. I don't know if there's a year on them. No, I don't see a year, at least unless they're at the beginning. Well, you see, no. This is copyright 2021, so I'm not sure that means it was made in 2021. Yeah, it's the copyright is 2021. It doesn't give me the year, But these were all purchased when they were still Tomoe River. It's part of all the books that I bought, notebooks that I bought, hoarding Tomoe River original paper. So we don't need to compare, if you will. We're going to just do our swatching on this ink, on these notebooks. But these I really recommend, folks. And they're reasonably priced. They're certainly not priced the way Obonichis are priced. And they come in different colors. They'll come in brown, this kind of blue, black. They used to have the green. I'm not sure they have the green any longer. You can get them in dot grid, or grid pattern, depending on what you prefer. So I will leave that in the description, and we're going to use my old one to do this ink swatching. Just that I noticed they no longer have the page separators, which is too bad, because oh no, they do. Sorry about that. I said they don't. No, they don't. Yeah, no, they don't. They used to have them, but they no longer have them. So we're going to take this page and we're going to swatch the ink here, if you will. Okay. As far as the inks are concerned, we're going to be continuing the Robert Oster collection. I have for you a marine. I have a green, which is Verde de Rio. I have a kind of a scarlet brown, frankly scarlet, and a more bluish color, blue water ice. So we're going to ink these up. I'm going to set it all up for you. And at the same time, I'm going to show you something that I made on my own because of one of the viewers mentioned that we can make your own depends. So he sent me a picture. Essentially what he does is that, let me just close up. What he does is that he takes a standard kind of speedball type of dip pen. And one of the things that I don't like about the nibs is that they're not the smoothest. I would love to have, for example, a Yowo nib underneath here. So what I did is I dismantled the top part and the bottom part, which serve as a kind of a reservoir for the ink so that you can do some writing. And I replaced the middle portion. Now the middle portion, I think I have one already. Do I have one dismantled? Yes, I do. Here it is. You see, this is the dismantle part of it, where I removed everything. It's actually this one. Yeah. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top and the bottom part, top and bottom, and put it on a Yowo nib and see what happens. And this is the result that I have. It's not perfect, but those two serve to capture ink. You got some ink that stays there and there, and it kind of provides the necessary flow or a reservoir for this dip pen. And I get to write with a Yowo 1.1 stub. So we're going to use this for my ink swatching and the writing of the inks. Okay, so here we go. Let's get my water in the mix. We will change the camera angle a little bit so that you can see the swatching. Get my cloth ready here. Okay, we're all set, of course, with my folded pen. And we will do Robert Oster Marine is the first ink. Yeah, it's a mareenish color. And again, I'm holding the bottle in my hands because these bottles are plastic and they do have a tendency to spill. So this is Robert Oster and it's marine. Wow. I can really write nicely with these. Yeah, I'm writing with an ordinary nib, so I'm not dealing with, some speedball nib that I can't control, or that scratches, or that is just not my cup of tea. I'm not, usually, calligraphers know how to manipulate and use those nibs much better than I do. This is Verde de Rio, so it's a green. Here we go. Put that aside. I'll take my... So this is Robert Oster. Verde de Rio. Wash that out. Next one is Frankly Scarlet. Whoop. Yeah, it's kind of a reddish, rusty brown, if you will. Very nice brown. So this is Robert Oster. Frankly Scarlet. Very nice brown. So far that do-it-yourself dip pen is working. Blue Water Ice. I remember this being a cool ink. Let's just hope it's... some of you mentioned that these kind of Robert Oster inks are kind of flat or boring, but they are very good inks. Wow, that's a nice blue. Yeah. Hopefully I'll get some sheen out of there. So, oh yeah, this is just down my alley. I love this color. And what is it again? Blue Water Ice. Very nice. Okay. So that dip pen really worked well. So there you have it. What we're going to do is going to allow these inks to dry up, and maybe we'll take some of those new pens. Why not? I mean, I can certainly ink this one up. I think I'm going to ink this one up with the Blue Water Ice, and maybe do the... Yeah, it's a toss-up. I think I'm going to go with the Blue Water Ice in my Asvine, and in my Ondean we'll do the marine. Okay, the marine, and we'll take some other pens and fill them up with maybe the other two colors. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe for what's coming up for next week. Okay, we'll be right back. We're back. I said I'd do some writing with this Asvine. I've put in that Blue Water Ice in this. That's in terms of vacuum, this is what I got on the first fill. You can power fill it and go for, but knowing me that I like to change inks often, this is enough for me. And let's just see how this nib writes. So this is the, oh yeah, wow. Asvine V126 demonstrator. And the nib is the number 6 steel Asvine 1.1 stub. Folks, just absolutely delicious. Ink is Robert Oster. Blue water ice. That's a nice blue. It is a really, really nice blue. And I'm not showing to you, but on the left here, it's outside the view of the camera, the ink is drying up, and it's drying up really nicely because it's going to, I think it's going to give me some shading and even some sheen. This is my Hongdian A7, and it's in the blue wood, or stabilized wood. The nib is the new number 6 Sophia. Fine nib, which is supposed to have a little bit of a bounce. Say suppose because I went from this that writes like a gusher to a fine, and that's not fair. So this is Robert Oster, and it's marine. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Now in the blue ink, something the camera's not picking up, but maybe I should just, do you see that red sheen? A little bit. The camera's not really picking it up, but you see traces of it around the color. Just in real life you can actually see it. But okay, we're back now with sorry about that. When the phone rings, my phone kind of bugs up a little bit. So, but in the meantime, we've managed to get these 3 or 4 swatches nice and dry. First one, Robert Oster Marine. Can you see the sheen? Beautiful sheen. The Robert Oster Verde de Rio, just a little bit of shading, not too much sheen, but it's a lightish green, not my favorite. The Frankly Scarlet, got some shading there, which is very interesting. It's a nice reddish brown. And Robert Oster Blue Water Ice, it's only when I turn that you get to see some of that sheen that you see in that handwriting. And again, you have to put it kind of proper to the light. But I love this ink. Very nice. This blue ink is one of my favorites, and it's going to make this new Asvine V126 a candidate for next week's weapons. Stay tuned for the next segment. Okay, so we're back with the currently inked segment of this recap. You'll recall last week that the theme was to put together a series of pens, Chinese pens that are not from any of the major brands, and by that I mean that are not Jinao, Wing Sung, Majon, Asvine, or Hongdian. So I've got a series of lemon. We've got nibs or pens. I've got some Trammell. I've got some Booker CR. I've got an Atami, and I've got some Admox. So without any further ado, let's do some writing with these pens and tell you which ones I appreciated this week and which ones I appreciated much less. We will use that Wonderland 222 notebook that we just swatched with. Here we go. Let's just close up a little more. Now, this pen is a lemon And the nib on this thing, lemon, spelled it wrong, is just, I don't know if you could see it, but it's just got a big, big, big tipping there, making it that this is, some people would say that this is triple broad. I mean, wow. Oh, and I forgot to mention it. It's lemon. It's the M1. Now, unfortunately, I did not use this pen very often. I got to tell you, just because it is so thick that did a lot of writing in my agendas and that sort of thing, but not. And it's, as you can see, it fills up the page real quick. So, this is the Lemon M2S. And it's dry. Why, you say? Because it doesn't have a Chinese nib. It has a Bock nib. These Bock fine nibs, to me, are just total failure. Didn't use it all week. And you know what? I'm going to change up that nib. Get rid of that Bock nib once and for all. This is the M5. It's got that kind of an architect lemon nib. Again, I think they call it hand polished. Very nice. I mean, I write fountain pen therapy and I keep writing it. Sorry about that. Maybe I should be a little more original, but it's better than writing, you know, what is it, the quick fox jumps over the lazy dog, or whatever that sentence is. It would take a little too long, but it gives you a very good idea of how that pen writes. This was my go-to pen all week. This is the M6, I believe. Yeah, the M6. It's got the 5-star Mont Blanc crest instead of the 6, but having said that, this pen was just a real go-to pen. So it's a Mont Blanc clone, Little Prince, I think. But the nib is very similar to this one here, but it just writes so much smoother. The other one has a little bit more of tooth to it, let's just say. This one was a go-to. I filled it up twice. Very nice. Got good weight. You know, it's the size of a 146, I would say, or 145. This is Trammell. I used it a little bit at the beginning of the week because it had some interesting green ink. I don't know what the name of this is. I think they just call it a vacuum filler. It's kind of an OMAS 88 inspiration, just a little bit thinner. I'm surprised it writes because it's a Bock nib. Yeah, it's a Bock. Probably because it's a medium instead of a fine. But in any event, this is the Trammell Lion, I think they call it. This has got a Yowo nib. Let's see if Yowo works any better. Yes, it does. No, that's not F. It's a T. I think they call it Lion just because of the motif here. And it's got a Yowo, I would say, fine nib. Again, not much use. This one I used a lot. I just hope there's enough ink in it. Actually, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's go over this. Let's not waste this page. This is the, I just saw a little bit of, okay. This is the Trammell they call it the cream or coffee. Just Yowo broad nib, I think. Yeah, it's a Yowo, but it's got a kind of a Joya branding, Joya pens. Really nice. And I managed to get a really nice brown, which is really a very nice ink, very dark brown. I think very, very nice. This is the Banjo Ferris wheel. Has a number 5 size nib, but I used it a little bit. This it wrote really nicely in my agenda because it's got a finer nib. So that very nice, especially for a number 5 size nib. I would say to you, very pleasant. This is the homage to the Cologne Cathedral. Tag Moon, I guess, or Booker CR. I don't know which is the... And it's the Cologne Cathedral. I love the nib on this pen. It's got a little bit of spring to it. And, you know, let's face it, the barrel, and it's a classy looking pen, you know. And it's not as heavy as it looks because this is acrylic or resin. And the cap is not one of these heavy Chinese pens. This is the Natami, what is it, Super Warship or something like that. I like the nib on this pen. Just soft. It's got just a little more spring than your standard Chinese nails. Or box, for that matter. I always pick on Chinese stiff nibs, but let me tell you, those Bach nibs I got to get rid of once and for all. This is the Admach M800, and this has got a Schmidt nib. Broad, and it's a real gusher. Use this pen much less. I did use the rollerball, though, to sign all kinds of documents. Oh, what's happening? It's stuck. That's interesting. The whole thing is stuck. It unscrewed on me. This is the Admach M800 Schmidt rollerball. So there you have it. That's my currently inked for this week. Stay tuned. We'll see what we'll put together for next week. Okay, so we're back with the next segment. And the next segment, of course, is going to be, what are my weapons for next week? Well, what I've done lately is I try to find a theme that could inspire me to choose my pens for the following week. So as opposed to choosing pens per se, find a theme and then kind of bulk or find all the pens that fit that theme and ink them up and use them for the week. So you remember last week I discussed some of the Ultim pens that I bought on AliExpress, the EDC pens, and that gave me an idea that maybe my theme for this week would be Ultim writing instruments. So without any further ado, let's go to my overhead camera. I'll show you what I've put together for next week. So here they are. Now they're not all Ultim, but I'll explain exactly what we're going here. Okay, so we got some of the EDC pens here. 1, 2, and 3 actually. Let's just put them in order. So 1, 2, 3, you've got a pocket pen, a fountain pen, and a rollerball. Then I've got my Ranga Ultim here with some interesting nib option there. We've got, this is an Enso, but I've replaced the nib because I thought the nib in there was, the original nib was completely, it was just a complete mess. I've got a Gravitas pocket pen here, and then I've got my, what are they call this, the blue, one second, I want to make sure I get this right. For the love of flex, it's the Good Blue pen. That's right, the Good Blue. And it's got an interesting nib there as well. So that's the Ultim theme. And then, of course, I want to keep writing with this newly acquired Asvine V126 with the 1.1 stub, and this newly acquired Ongdian A7 with that new fine nib. I want to keep giving my P141 a go here, now that I've given it a little bit of a twist, the nib that is, as I showed you earlier. I want to keep going with it and see what that gives. And the forgotten one, the wooden barreled pencil that I've forgotten to mention, I found it a very, very nice writer. So, and it looks really sharp. So I'm going to try to use this week as well. So those are my pens for this week. Okay, so let's write with these beautiful pens. I'll take my Wonderland 222 notebook and we'll continue to write in this beautiful paper, by the way. I recommend it. So let's just close up a little bit here. Actually, I'm going to take a new page here. Here we go. Okay, so the first one I want to show you is this the Good Blue. Very nice flex nib. It has just a wonderful flex nib. And this kind of section, when I saw it advertised and some of the photographs on the site, I said, I'm not sure I'm going to like this. Big step down, and it's metal, and there's got some edges there, but it's actually very, very comfortable, surprisingly enough. And many people have said that, so I'm not the only one. So let's take a look at how this pen writes. But I forget what ink I put in here, but I think I didn't wash it out. I often do that. I just re-inked. The converter was pretty empty, so there'd be some leftover, but that's fine. You'll get the picture in any event. So it's the Good Blue Ultim. The nib is the Good Blue Flex nib.
And as you can see, that flex nib just performs very, very nicely. Thank you very much. There you go. So that's the first one. Next one is Gravitas. I did the same thing, except I inked this one up with Andean Bluish Gray, one of my favorite inks these days. So this is the Gravitas. I think there's a name for this pocket pen, but I'm just going to put pocket pen. It's got a Gravitas nib. Now, again, it's always a mystery to me as to whether or not Gravitas has in-house nibs or not. I think it's a medium. Actually, it may even be a broad. It's writing. Yeah, maybe a broad. I'm not sure. Would have to check my specs, but writes beautifully. And the pen, once capped, or posted I should say, has a very, very nice size. Excellent product. The only downside that I realized just inking this pen again is that ugly converter. When you try to have these little converters in these pocket pens, they just never work out very well. Even the Kaweco. It's similar to the Kaweco, and yeah, not the greatest. But the pen writes beautifully. So you quickly run out of ink. That's now this Enso is the Enso Italia model. It kind of was a bust right from the start. I'm not going to order any more products from them for a while unless somebody convinces me. Italia, Ultim. The nib I replaced with it's a Vizier branded, probably a Yowo medium nib. With that nib, it performs well, but take a look at how that Ultim piece here is just, something's leaking there. It's not, and I've tried everything. I don't know why the ink is there. There's also a little pattern. Wait a minute, it's not focusing. You see that little pattern right at the end, which matches the pattern that I find here. And it's a real pain to wash out when you ink your pen, let me tell you. Got ink all over my fingers. I had to wash them out before I did this. The next is this Ranga. I really like this Ranga Ultim version of this pen with this new Ranga clip that they have now. Very, very nice. And when you do this kind of model and then you use Multum, it really comes out nicely. What I did is I ordered it with a Bach nib, I think, or the Bach section, but without any nibs. And the nib I'm using here is a Fountain Pen Revolution Extra Fine Ultra Flex. So this is the Ranga. Forget the model. It may be model 3 flat top, but I apologize, but I believe that's the one, or 3S, I forget now. The nib in this thing is the FPR Fountain Pen Revolution Extra Fine Ultra Flex. Yeah, by the way, the ink that I put in here was that Verde de Rio. of Robert Oster, except that you'll see it's much darker because, again, I didn't wash out the pen and there was still some ink in there and some green ink of some sort. So that explains why this ink is so dark, because Verde de Rio is very light. There we go. So see how nicely these flex nibs write? So they're a flex nib, and usually they're very capricious, and they kind of, they're not constant, but not those FPRs, I gotta tell you. Very nice. Okay, next. Next is this EDC. This is the fountain pen version. It comes with a fine nib, but what I did is I replaced that fine Schmidt nib with a medium nib. I like the medium line on that pen. So this is the EDC Ultim. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's the fountain pen because you have various writing instruments. I think you got the pencil, you got the ballpoint, you got the roller ball, and the pocket pen. The ink I put in here is the Madron Red. I know there's a name for it, but it's the Madron Red. It's this one here, because there's a couple of versions of Madron ink. I find this ink just fabulous. Take a look at that. And it's got a Schmidt medium nib. These Ultim pens are, talk about writing, long writing sessions. They're so comfortable because they have this, first of all, the tactile touch. It's plasticky, but it's different. It's kind of sticky, very nice and very light. So very comfortable pens. I should just, I'm thinking about getting the Ultim, the Gravitas vacuum filler in the Ultim. Yeah. Now, this one here, just a little bit of a storyline. I've been criticizing this pen. Well, I like this pocket pen, first of all. But the only criticism I had for it was that when you cap it, it's very loose. So you're forced to put kind of the clip a little bit closer down to kind of, just the clip kind of closes it a bit and it stays. And then one of the viewers said, wait a minute, you're not doing this properly. In fact, what you should be doing is inserting it. Once you insert it, the pen posts very comfortably and doesn't twist anymore. I just didn't realize you just had to give it a little push. So this is the EDC Ultim fountain pen, fountain pocket pen, I guess we could put. This one, the nib does have a Schmidt fine. That's why I decided to go with the medium there, just because I figured I have already a fine here, and this is a fine nib. By the way, did you see how that red ink, that Madron ink, is fabulous? I don't know if the camera doesn't pick it up, but it's got some wonderful shading from light to dark red. Really, really nice. I recommend that ink. Yeah. Again, very careful, and thank you to that viewer who corrected me on this. Now I feel much better. It does post very, very securely. Not a problem there whatsoever. Then we got the Ultim rollerball version. Okay, so this is the EDC. Actually, this is the ballpoint. Ballpoint, and it is the Ultim. I don't know why it's not writing on me anymore. Yeah, it's running out. Maybe I'll replace it with a. Let me just see. Yeah, it has a Schneider. That should be gel, though. I don't know why it's not writing. Yeah, it's a gel. It's a gel. Gel refill, and it should be writing a lot nicer than this. I gotta check that out. Maybe it's just drying up on me for some reason. Or maybe it's just fine, and I just don't like fine. So there you have it. That's the ballpoint there. Now, what I've added, and maybe we'll go to another page here, is of course I've added, I love this blue ink, by the way. This is the, as we saw, the Asvine. Look at this. Let me just put this even closer. I want you to really see this ink. It is so smooth. Asvine V126 demo. Whoops. There we go. The nib is the 1.1 stub. Super smooth. I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how they do it. I mean, a Yowo stub nib costs, in some places, just as much as the whole pen that you see here. And the ink, I'll remind you, is Robert OSTER. Is it Blue Water Ice? Yeah. Blue Water Ice. Really good stuff. I mean, when you write with a pen like this, and with this ink, and this nib, yes, it's fountain pen therapy at its best. So, I'm going to have some fun with this V126. Maybe I'll power fill it. Now, of course, when you go to that pen, and then you come to this one, with that very fine nib, without saying it's a little bit of a disappointment, it's certainly a big change. So, but it's a different writing experience, correct? So this is the Dieman A7, and it's the blue stable wood, and the nib is that new generation fine nib. By the way, the ink in this one is that Robert OSTER. So it's the Robert OSTER Marine is the ink. Marine. Marine. There we go. So, different writing experience, but nice one nonetheless. Okay, let me just move this so I can move this up. I apologize, you see that's Tomo River, but I just want to finish this page. Yeah, and this is the Majon. Look at that. I'm glad I fixed this pen. Majon P141. You see, it's a dilemma. I think every buyer is entitled to say that when they buy a pen, they expect the nib to be perfect, right out of the box. But it's not always the case. I mean, people criticize Visconti. You can have a recently on Hemingway Jones's channel, A lot of the viewers have been complaining about the quality control of Mont Blancs lately, where their nibs are just scratchy and don't work. And those are expensive nibs. Those are $300-400 nibs that you can't play around with unless you know what you're doing. So you got to take it to a Nimmeister, and there may be some additional cost there just to get it right. And mind you, Mont Blanc does honor a certain guarantee, but it shouldn't happen. So when a $30 pen like this one, or whatever it is, $30, I think it's 30 US, the nib was fine, but it was just dry, boring. We play around with it a little bit, and look at this now. This is a P141 with the standard number 8 nib. And it's a completely different writing experience. And all of a sudden, this pen goes from, pen to be just stored away and not used to a really nice writing experience. Got to tell you. And with that Hongdian bluish gray, I'm going to have some fun with this nib this week. There we have it. And last but not least is I'm going to go with this pencil. I think this pencil is really nice. This is the Pilot S20 mechanical pencil. Very nice writing experience, by the way. Well, you can't see it. Beautiful pen, or beautiful writing instrument, I should say. Really, really nice. I really like this wood concept. Going to buy more. So there you have my pens for this week. I think it's a good choice. What do you say? Let me just close up here. There we go. A bit too close. These are my weapons for this week, and I'm very happy with my choice, and we're going to have some fun with all that. There you have it. Stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, next segment is any questions or answers or any commentary or anything loose ends, so to speak, that I wanted to deal with. One of the viewers asked me, when I talked about this EDC Ultim fountain pens with the Schmidt nib, the viewer asked whether or not the Schmidt nibs that are in these pens, are they good just in this pen, or are Schmidt nibs generally good? And the answer to that, no, absolutely not. Schmidt nibs are good elsewhere. And I just wanted to demonstrate that. I have Schmidt nibs in other pens, and let's take a look at a few. Okay. Here we are. Now, this is just a sampling of the pens that I own with Schmidt nibs. But I just wanted to give that viewer some reassurance that Schmidt nibs are the real thing. Let me just get this a little bit closer so you can see that. First of all, Benu, although lately I noticed they've changed. They're offering pens with the Yowo nibs, if I'm not mistaken, or the Bach. No, I think it's Yowo. But for a longest of time, they continue to. And I think it's a mistake if they drop the Schmidt nibs. But Benu pens with those Schmidt nibs, wow. This is the Benu pen. And it's got a Schmidt broad nib. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is an absolute gusher when you use the broad. I mean, it really, really performs just spectacular. So you'll enjoy Schmidt nibs. Now that's a broad. That's a sampling of a broad. Then I have this what do they call it? Scrivener pens. I have this model, which has a number 5 Schmidt nib. That was a number 6. Okay, that was a number 6 in the Benu one. This number 5, this is a medium. Take a look at how performing, and it's a medium like the medium that we just saw in one of those Ultim pens. Again, spectacular performance on these Schmidt nibs. So that's a medium. What do I have on? I have another Scrivener here, another model, and this one is this one's a medium as well. This is oh, is it writing? I haven't written with this in ages. Let me just dip that in water and get it going. Here we go. This is a number 5 Schmidt again. And this Scrivener pen. Is it Scrivener? Yeah. So rest assured, dear viewer, that Schmidt nibs in all pens, in my view, are excellent performers. So that's the answer to that question. Now, the next thing I wanted to tackle was there is, some discussion as to whether, why Majon would, bring this pen out, which is the P141, when they have the P140. I know that I think it's Inkwell Studio mentioned that this pen has got a great nib. The manufacturing, the resin on this pen is fabulous. It's got a fully brass section in this feeding system, okay, whereas this one, and I saw it, I mentioned it, and actually disassembled it during my review. Part of it is made out of plastic and part of it is brass. The here, when you turn the piston, it's very loose, and it feels like it's going to break on you. Very light, plasticky, some people would say. But I think the biggest problem I have right now is that I've seen advertised that you can get the P141 with the Sun nib. Okay, so I said to myself, okay, well, given that I wasn't happy with how that nib was performing, I said I'm going to just buy an extra Sun nib, and they do sell them separately, and put it into the P141, and I'll be happy. But before I did that, I said, let me try. So I took out this nib, and I try to put it in here, and it just doesn't go. I have a long video demonstrating that. I'm going to spare you with that video just because I think it ultimately, all I can tell you is that I tried everything, and I tried using the same feed, and the feed doesn't fit because they're two different feeds. Now, is it just my pen? So how they can sell you this because some of them you can see the nib actually in there. So you wonder whether or not they have a different section or have accommodated the Sun Expedition nib. Some of them sell you this look with an extra nib on the side, which is the Sun Expedition nib, which to me is a great deal because you get both and then you can try both. But did they change the section? I have no idea. Now, is it just my pen? One viewer, I mentioned that to Inquiring Minds. I don't believe I've received an answer. I think Doug is going to do probably is going to try it if he has the time and let us know. But one viewer said, be careful. The gold trim accommodates the sun nib, and the silver trims accommodates the new. Well, I'm not sure if the camera picks this up, but I have a gold trim and it doesn't fit. So I'm not sure if that theory works. Now, is it just, I'm always one of the first to order these things. Now, is it because, there's a different batch? I don't know. But the controversy continues. So if anybody out there can enlighten me as to how I can get my sun nib in the P141, let me know. I mean, I'm less inclined to do so now that I've played around with this nib and got it to work really nicely. It's not perfect, but it's really, really nice, as I've just demonstrated. But having said that, if I have the choice of replacing that very stiff nib with this beautiful Sun Expedition nib, I will certainly do it. So let me know, folks, if you have an answer. One of the viewers asked me to compare. I have two P20s, okay, Hasvine P20. This is the original older version, and this is the brand new version I just ordered now with the 1.1 stub. And that viewer was curious to know whether or not the sections are the same. And I can confirm to that viewer that both the feed, from what you can see here, and the section are exactly the same. The only thing that's changed, in my view, is they've added a 1.1 stub to their repertoire. But that's it. So yes, to answer your question, at least in my pen, they are the same section. Now, another viewer was curious about this ADMOC M800, which is, to me, a really good clone of the Pelican M800. And now they're selling adapters so that you could accommodate an actual Pelican nib. Now, I managed to insert a nib that I bought. This is a Pelican, what is it? Is it a medium or no, this is a broad that I bought on Giardino Italiano, as I mentioned earlier in this recap, for an excellent price. And it was on sale. It's a broad, I guess it's a gusher, so maybe not too many people like the broad, but I bought it and I managed to put it into this pen. But now they sell an adapter, which is even nicer. But here it is. Now, I haven't written with this pen in a while, so it might not write. Let's just see. I have not written, and I can assure you that I wouldn't say that if it wasn't the case. ADMOC M800 with a Pelican M800 broad nib. And yes, I have not written with this pen in months. Doesn't leak. The pen is fabulous. It gives you... They're a little bit pricey when you compare them to other Chinese pens. It's got the nice chatoyant blue resin there. Now, you could have philosophical objections, and I understand that. But if anybody wants to feel what an M800 feels like in their hand, and write with one, and not have to spend what these pens will in Canadian go for $600, $700, $800. For $70-$80 plus the nib. The nib I think cost me $150 if I'm not mistaken at the time. I get to play around with a Pelican nib. So there you have it. Yes, it does work. And now for $25 you can actually buy the accessory, or they sell an actual adapters, an accessory there that I've shown you to accommodate even better. So that answers that question. So I think that wraps up some of the commentary, some of the questions and answers and little tidbits that I had still floating around that I thought would be fun to share with you. So stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, so we're back for the last segment of this recap, which is YouTube review. What have I got for you? Well, first of all, on my own channel, I remind you there's my recap of last week. My recaps are not meant to be punctual in any way. Yes, they are punctual to the extent that they review what's happening in my channel or what's happening in my studios and what's new in the market, but there are all kinds of interesting reviews of pens, paper, and inks that are being presented in all of these recaps. So I always invite you to take a look at older versions, because you can find all kinds of useful things in those recaps. So the recap of last week is to be mentioned. Secondly, I've reviewed the Visconti Voyager. I think that's a beautiful pen. So take a look at that video as well. In terms of other reviewers, I have 3 videos that I would recommend. First of all, I've discovered this. It's an Asian channel, Stationary Scholar. I'm assuming it's Japanese, but I may be wrong, just because I don't read Japanese, and it's dubbed in English. But the channel reviews reviews fountain pens as well, but has many interesting reviews on other writing instruments that are coming out. In particular, mechanical pencils, ballpoints, roller balls, and very interesting stuff, let me tell you. And he reviews some very tantalizing writing instruments, the last of which is this one, which is the Aim Vision Caillou. And you can see this gentleman, I'm assuming is a gentleman because the voice is a male voice, goes through the pen, piece by piece. Just a fabulous job. Compares 2 versions, and I would recommend it, especially if you're interested in acquiring writing instruments other than fountain pens. That channel is to be looked at. And as I said, there is sometimes annoying dubbed version. Just that voice is annoying, but it does provide the information, and I think it's very useful. Secondly, my friend Hemingway Jones does these journaling videos, and he always does a great job in demonstrating how journaling and mental health in his mind go together, and I agree with him totally. That's why my channel is called Fountain Pen Therapy. Now, I have my own views on journaling. I think what I journal, I don't like to repeat my life in a journal because it just gets me even more depressed. But I can understand how it can be a catharsis for some people to just vent all their feelings in writing and eliminate them in certain instances, or deal with them in a structured manner. I prefer to be freelance. I think the writing experience, the fact that I let the ink flow on a paper and write anything and everything, to me is my own journaling way of doing things, if you will, but it can vary. But I think a great majority of us do journal and do find some peace in doing that. So I recommend Hemingway Jones's video. Always very, very well done and very informative. And last but not least, there are a bunch of videos out there about Abonici, the new Abonici, and whether or not 2025 and whether or not it's worth getting, etc., or 2026. And I have one that I would recommend, and that's Rachel in Theory. Take a look at this video in case you're interested in, finding out whether or not it's worthwhile spending that kind of money on an Abonici. This reviewer goes through it in detail. And of course, I will be doing my own version of things a little bit later on, once I received
a bunch of products that I want to share with you. So there you have it. So that's for YouTube review for this week. Now, in terms of my own reviews, what I've got for you are some older videos that I've not had a chance to publish, which are these two. There's my Ranga pen and there's a Radius pen that are just they're poor souls. They're sitting there saying, "Why not me? Why not me?" And they get bumped up or bumped down each week. And then I've got this video on the Dieman nibs that I want to really present to you guys. I go over all the nibs, different generations of nibs, and different type of nibs that Dieman uses in their pens. And lastly, here is my video. I've just completed a video on dip pens, all the dip pens choices that you have, and then I kind of declare a winner. But I've got to still complete that video because I've been contacted by Drill Log. They sent me an email. They wanted to know whether or not I would be interested in trying one of their pens at one of the shows that took place. I mentioned to them that I was not going to attend the San Francisco show, but that they are welcome to send me the pen if they want me to review it. And I'm waiting for them to get back to me. It'd be great if that Drill Log actually is sent to me, and I don't want it. They can send it to me and I can send it back, but I could review it for you folks. It is an expensive nib, but on the other hand, it looks really tempting. And then I just showed you one of the nibs that I kind of a DIY, do-it-yourself sort of a nib that's working very well. So I want to include that in the video. So that video's got to still be worked on, but it's going to be coming out soon. So there you have it. And that wraps up the recap for this week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please enjoy your pens. Get your fountain pen therapy whenever you can. It's a great community. It's a great hobby, and I'm passionate about it. And I love sharing this with you every week. It provides my therapy. And please subscribe if you haven't. It helps the algorithm. And it doesn't cost you a thing. But enjoy your pens, folks. Enjoy your collection, and please comment. Send me ideas if you have any questions. I will review them either when I respond or maybe even on this channel in a subsequent recap. So, ciao.